Is proudly brought to you by Checkers Saturday Westwood Mall and Checkers Foods Cowie Park.
You are the only one, the messenger.
Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So welcome back. Live on our screens. You can join us on YouTube and Facebook, and you can catch us live. So we're actually talking about our South Africans' inclusion promises failing women and persons with disabilities. So we're asking a difficult but a very necessary question. If South Africa already has some of the most progressive policies on women's rights and disability inclusion, why do so many still feel excluded from the economy? Now, on paper, the framework exists for procurement policies aimed at empowering women to national strategies addressing gender-based violence. The intention is clear. But for millions of South Africans, particularly women and persons with disabilities in rural areas and townships, the lived reality actually tells a very different story. Joining us now, we have our special guest on the airwaves of Radio Al Ansar as well as on our screens is Cassius Selala from the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. Good morning, Cassius, and welcome to Radio Al Ansar this morning.
Very good morning to all the listeners. Much appreciated.
It's an absolute pleasure, and I think it's such an important topic. Now, South Africa is often praised for having progressive policies on women's rights and disability inclusion. But on the ground, the reality actually lives a very different story. Where do you think the breakdown is actually happening?
I think firstly, the legislative frameworks made the democratic government to make sure that women with disabilities are accommodated in the economic trajectory. The challenge that we are having is total implementation of these legislative frameworks. Much has been done and more needs to be executed. And particularly around issues related to women and persons with disabilities. Women in particular are marginalized in terms of procurement systems. Women in particular continue to be unemployed, and they are the larger majority of our population. And as a result, we have a national strategic plan on gender-based violence and femicide, pillar number 5 on economic empowerment, which calls for 40% preferential procurement of women businesses. And we are appealing not only to government, largely provinces, municipalities and national government, but also to private sector to adhere to this call by saying 50 or 40% of our procurement allocation must be particularly designated to women and in particular persons with disabilities.
Now, South Africa has actually declared gender-based violence a national crisis, but you've also emphasized its economic roots. The question is, are we doing enough to address the financial dependence that keeps women trapped in abusive situations?
I think one of the towards gender-based violence is the element of economic dependency. And if we systematically empower women and make sure that they are economically empowered, they are able to participate in the economic value chain, the procurement system does respond to their needs, but also encourage women to form corporates of themselves, making sure that they trade among themselves, would have won the battle of eliminating gender-based violence, because it is a driver. Men still control the economy, and they're still making decisions in the economic sector. And talking to men about inclusive society, it's quite a relevant topic. Making sure that those men presiding over larger corporates and the financial sector accommodate the 40% preferential procurement for women and persons with disabilities in particular, we would have kept the ball in terms of dealing with the issues of gender-based violence and femicide. And it's a decisive move to remove women from the hands of dependence. And if we win that element, we would have really make a change.
Move women from the hands of dependence. So by empowering them, then they can make choices. It's often these situations that do keep them stuck in that whole vicious cycle. Now, South Africa has actually taken these issues to global platforms like the G20. How do we ensure that these international commitments actually translate into tangible local impact?
We've got a good news. We just came back from the CSW. It's a United Nations intergovernmental event. And South Africa was acknowledged for the work that they're doing. As a result, for the period under review, we are a chair of the communication work stream on gender-based violence. What does that mean? It says civil society in South Africa, government, private sector have got the ability to report through United Nations as South Africans the work that they are doing, challenges that they are facing, and progress that they are making in terms of dealing with the issues of gender-based violence. Yes, we have just moved from G20, and we moved with 3 priorities. Priority number 1 was the issues of economic empowerment of women, which is more critical, but also the issue of paid and unpaid care work, and the last one being ending gender-based violence. Then the second one, which is more on paid and unpaid care work, and I'm going to it precisely because we've already dealt with the issue of economic empowerment. You would agree with me that most women still work extra hours outside normal work if they are working. If not working, they still are responsible for domestic duties. When kids come back from school, they are still doing the homeworks. Beyond homeworks, they still look after their husbands. And that it's another element of paid and unpaid care work that women provide right across. But you go to the hospitality sector, whether you're looking at tourism, whether you're looking at the healthcare system, largely it's driven by women. And that is an area that we do believe that women can make huge contribution into it. It's an economic opportunity for lots of women that they can explore and make a living out of it. And therefore, if we explore that through policy and directive legislative mandates, we would have been able to, one, economically empower women, and ultimately, or the byproducts of these efforts would have been ending gender-based violence.
Lovely opportunities highlighted there, and it's so true. Women are doing so much, and as you classified, it's the paid and the unpaid jobs that women still have to carry out, whether they want to do it or not. How far are we, Cassius, from achieving true economic inclusion for women and persons with disabilities in South Africa?
One, let's deal with the issue of persons with disabilities. Government has taken a decision that 7% of all public sector opportunities, particularly job opportunities, 7% is a minimum fraction, must be given to persons with disabilities without any form of having to take them for an interview or whatsoever, but they must be competent. And that 7% ranges from provinces, municipalities, and national government. And on a monthly or quarterly basis, we do conduct monitoring and evaluation as the department to look at compliance from government. It is not a good picture. Majority of government departments are not complying. And when I'm saying majority, I'm not looking at the national government. I'm talking about municipalities, provincial departments, and the national government departments. And we encourage that for us to meet that 7% by 2030, we need to start now to increase the number that we already have. It is not impressive. We're encouraging that persons with disabilities that qualifies, but also have the ability to discharge responsibilities designated to them, must be afforded those opportunities so that we move unemployment from persons with disabilities. But also, when it comes to women, the issue of unemployment among women is quite high, and women in particular, regardless of race, women generally are unemployed, and they are majority. 70% of South African populations are women, and you've got a 70% of the population that is unemployed. you have a crisis. So we are pushing that. We need to make sure that women, one, they're economically empowered. Two, they are also able to do business. Three, but they're also being able to be employed in all decision makings. Progress has been made. We must pride ourselves that you look at the judiciary, it's presided by women. And pre 1994, that was never a possibility that we could imagine. Parliament is constituted about women. And we never thought that we'd have 50% or 59% of women being in parliament making decisions. But those decisions need to translate to an ordinary woman in an ordinary society or a community that we never heard of, and a woman is leading in that area. But nice thing again, you look in the education sector, more girls are passing with distinctions as opposed to boys. And we encourage young girls to also explore careers in science, maths, and technology so that these are tomorrow's opportunities that will direct you to right careers once you are an adult. And if you take advantage of these opportunities, which government, by the way, is making it available to all South Africans, particularly women, women will be able to make decisions in the agriculture. Women will be able to participate in the electricity sector, in the water, in the technology sector. But we need to start now, so we don't wait for the future to come and we look backward and say, if I could have. We encourage women to therefore take opportunities that are available so that they are able to change the graph and making sure that they are competent and they are also be able to included in the economic sector and participate meaningfully.
So, urban women, here's your opportunity. Don't sit back. I mean, every woman has such amazing talents, and there's so much of opportunity for people to definitely embark upon them. For specifically women, I mean, listening to the statistics that Cassius is actually sharing with us, it's amazing. But we also know, in our religion, we warn that towards the end of time, the number of women will also increase. So, women, we have to get empowered. If we take our mother, Sayyidina Khadija radiallahu anha, subhanAllah, what an amazing woman who led successful businesses and so forth. So we've got it there, and it's time for us definitely now to take on from there and continue so we can become empowered. Now, Cassius, what would you say to South Africans who actually feel that these policies sound good on paper but haven't changed their daily life or their daily reality?
Look, I think it's important to change the narrative. And a platform like yours are quite relevant to change that narrative, not only to explain the work that government is doing, but have testimonials by women who have benefited from government programs, but also women who have stood up on themselves and initiate businesses for themselves, and they're trading with government, whether domestically or internationally. And that will also help us to say, this is the positive news that we, through government policies, we have been able to change our lives. But here is another element that I want to bring forth to you. There is a structure that government has initiated. We call it Women Economic Assembly. We corner in a short narrative. What we did last year, 2025, when we were launching Women's Month, we invited women-led businesses. We converged in Sandton Convention Center to celebrate Women's Month. And I was personally amazed as a man to look at the number of macro business that are run by women. And you range from beauty to tailor making, dressmaking, hotels, you name it. Tire manufacturers are men. And I was impressed as a man to say, look at what women are doing. Now, we've got women in the rural areas who owns and work the land. What is stopping women from the rural areas to form cooperatives and says we produce sorghum, for instance? We want to export this sorghum to countries that needs this sorghum. We produce avocados. We want to send it to African countries, Arab countries, for instance, and Western or China, because they love avocados. We need to empower women so that we open doors of opportunities for that. And once we've done that, these are economic byproducts that will benefit them. It will change their life for better, if not forever. And we encourage the women to therefore look at these opportunities and move forward. But we also want to discourage men from looking at women as secondary citizens in our own countries. Women are equal human beings like the rest of us. They've got the ability. In fact, they are more powerful than us men. And I'm encouraging women to look at themselves in that same energy, that we are more powerful. And if we unite and stand together, we can change the narrative and make our life far much better. And once more, removing ourselves from the hands of men who are abusive and willingly unwilling to transform and change themselves from this horrendous behavior of killing and abusing women.
Absolutely. Well said. I think you ended off in such a positive and a high note, encouraging women to actually realize their sense of self-worth, that they are not dependent on men. But as you said, if we unite together, because definitely man is created to fulfill certain things, women are, and if we can allow ourselves to just shine and thrive in our potential, what a great world we can be, and bringing in all of that possibilities and abilities in power to the surface. But again, lovely message out there for the men that yes, women too have been created with their unique skills and talents, and for a reason and a purpose. So may we have the ability to tap within our own selves. So women, go and look at yourselves in the mirror, take Cassius' words and realize how amazing you are. And the question is, what stops you from reaching levels that you see other people are doing such a fantastic job doing? So there's lots of opportunities for women, as we can hear. There's every time for us to touch in on that. We thank you so much for your time this morning, Cassius, and we wish you a lovely day further until we connect again. Bye for now.
Much appreciated, and thank you very much.
And that was Cassius Selala from Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. So you've heard it. It's so important. And I think it's nice. It's actually ended off in a very nice and a positive way for us women to realize that potential is there. Remember that if we want anything to happen, any change, we've got to make it happen. So it's about believing in yourself, because Allah Azza wa Jal has given us everything, but it's what we allow ourselves to go forth and to do. So as you know, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah Azza wa Jal will not change the condition of the people until they change what is in themselves. So inshallah, let's do that. We've heard it. South African, as a nation, as a community, as a society, women are doing amazing things. Hats off to all the fabulous urban women. I'm just going to say that. Well, let's go for a break on that note, and I'll be back with you in a bit. It is Urban Woman with me, Razia Rangbridge. Stay tuned.
يا من صليت بكل الأنبياء، يا من في قلبك رحمة للناس، يا من ألفت قلوبا بالإسلام، يا حبيبي يا شفيعي يا رسول الله. بأمي وأبي فديتك سيدي، صلاة وسلام عليك يا نبي. حبيبي يا محمد، أتيت بالسلام والهدى محمد. حبيبي